I'm doing my part to make my dream come true. Not holding back, I'm on the track to my breakthrough. Dedication, staying true to what I love. Determination is finally paying off. Here's to the haters and fakers. You never stop me. I'm better, I'm stronger, and everyone can see I'm moving up. Yeah. All the way up. I'm moving up. All the way up. All the way up.
Welcome to Trials and Troops with Dr. Monica. Please tag a friend and share now. That was our theme song. If you've been tuning in each week, I'm Moving Up by my friend Carrie Taylor. And I love that song so much. You know, it's talk about being stronger, better, to your haters and fakers. They'll never stop you. You're dedicated and staying true. So I am Dr. Monica, the author of Wounds of Wisdom, written to help you heal and deal with life wounds by transparently sharing some of my experiences. And this book is about each one, reach one, heal one, and learning from other people's wisdom to avoid some of your wounds. So if you've been following me for the past few weeks, I have been in chapter 4, which was church wounds. I'm moving on today to chapter 5, which is the following chapter, children's wounds. I'm going to share 3 points today and be no more than 15 or 20 minutes. But first, I want to remind you that these are my experiences, my realities, my approach, and my truths. You may or may not agree with how I handled these situations. And I'm sharing to show how I survived and how I healed. So may my journey help someone who may be struggling in these areas. There is an ancient proverb that says it takes a village. I'm going to make a statement. I think that the village has failed, and I think the village is failing. This is the reality and the truth. Most people won't say anything about it because it's too challenging or it's uncomfortable for them. And they prefer to blindly follow their norms, their teachings, their beliefs, and their perspectives instead of examining various perspectives. And when you start looking at various different things, you may see different perspectives. And what you will discover is that it will begin to poke holes or raise questions or expose some things that you never imagined. It also may hold you accountable. So I encourage people to examine things from all perspectives, not just from your limited knowledge or what you think, because there's different viewpoints. There's, when they say there's 2 sides to every story, no, there's multiple sides to every story. So I want to start by talking about chapter 5, children wounds. I planned and I birthed 1 child while I was married. I was separated and the marriage was annulled before my child turned a year old. So essentially, I was a single mother dealing with the stigma of divorce, which is in chapter 7. Hello, Carrie. Hello, Tisa. Thank you for tuning in. And for me, motherhood was relatively easy. I had a very compliant child. I had a very obedient child, was respectful, intelligent, and she earned her bachelor's degree in 3 years from a UC, and also earned her master's at age 23. Motherhood was one of the most joyous and proudest responsibilities that I've ever experienced, and it was a blessing. And most mothers probably can say the same thing. People admired how I raised my daughter. People admired our relationship and how strong we were, how connected we were. And, I'm thankful, I'm grateful, and I'm blessed. I didn't have any issues with my daughter with respect to concerns about her choice of friends. She always made wise decisions. I didn't really have to give her a curfew because she came home. I didn't have issues with communicating with her. She would always include me. She always shared things with me. As far as education and studying, never had an issue with her in school. Disciplinary issues, not that she was a perfect child, but I'm just sharing how our relationship was. She once said that I was her best friend. So that was our relationship for 23 years. And I cherish that. I cherish the memories. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of how I raised my child. I have no regrets. I'm proud of her accomplishments. However, I want to tune you into chapter 5, and I'm going to read pages 105 and 106. I think the worst pain that one can experience is from a child that you birth. The child that many of us purpose to bring into the world, nurtured, developed, and loved unconditionally, becomes a prodigal, strayed from our teachings, and breaks our heart into a million pieces. They think they made wise, sound decisions, and we no longer know anything after knowing them enough to get them to where they are and mold them, all by God's grace. It can be surreal and the most painstaking experience. There's a saying that nothing catches God by surprise. I have wondered if my child was amongst the first to shock God. From conversations with many parents, I think many have had this very thought. But when you speak up about your situation, you realize that you are not alone or nearly as embarrassed. However, that does not stop the pain. I go on to say that people say pray and continue without ceasing. However, I often wonder if some people and situations are beyond prayer's reach. This is not a lack of faith. It's reality that people put themselves in situations and may need to do the heavy lifting to get themselves out of situations, not God, but with his strength. So, I share that. And that's kind of the lead way into that chapter. On page 124 of the book, I also say, people see and believe what they want and from their own truth. But that's dangerous. How many times have we looked at situations from our perspective without examining anything else? Because we want to have the illusion or believe that our way is the best way. So I want to take this time right now to speak to this younger generation. I'm going to get a little graphically too, okay? But I want to say first and foremost, your mother and your father know more and have lived more beyond your own thoughts. Listen now or pay later. Your parents' wisdom and guidance is lived sense. It's sense that you haven't acquired yet. And that has a lot of value. Also, your actions demonstrate your value or your devalue of your parents. Accountability is what I'm talking about. So don't allow your I'm grownness to make your life tougher than it needs to be. We all go through situations and we all learn from our mistakes. However, take time to listen to those that love you, that have supported you all your life, and you've known. I want to say this to this younger generation. Don't get so caught up in the lick, the sick, the stick, the suck, the touch, that tap, those emotions, the attention, the sweet talk, the feelings, and the praise that you stray away from the teachings and your upbringings, because you may burn bridges that you may never rebuild, Because once you lose trust, it's difficult to regain it. And that's not just for the young people. That's some of these seasoned people as well. Unless you have been in an environment where you've been abused or mistreated or live in toxicity, you should never have to abandon wise, loving parents to be with anyone or your family. If you do, you need to examine that relationship. That also examine who you have become. Don't succumb to the misrepresentation of leave and cleave. And for those of you who grew up in the church, you know what I'm talking about. We talked about church wounds in previous weeks. So point number 1, children, your actions affect and infect your parents and family. If you care, stop and think. Don't let anyone mislead you, misguide you, or use you. It's costly. And at some point, you will reap what you sow. Sooner or later, there are consequences and a high price to pay for our choices and our decisions. You know, and I heard Pastor YPJ this morning. He said, the benefit becomes a burden because of disobedience. The benefit, maybe the benefit of that relationship can become a burden if you're disobedient. So be careful of who you attach yourself to. There's consequences. I want to say chapters 4 and 5 were the most difficult chapters to write in this book. That was the church wounds and the children's wounds. But those chapters, that was a straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And if it hadn't been for these situations, I probably would sit silently. But because I don't want any other parent or any other child to go through what I've experienced, I hope that by opening up, that you hear and you listen. And I want to take a time to speak to parents just for a moment. Parents have broken themselves mentally, financially, spiritually, physically because of their children. Some of them have lost homes to get them out of situations. They've gone into great debt, paying for things that they couldn't afford, education, extracurricular activities, all for what? You know, these are things that parents think they're supposed to do. And we're supposed to raise them, but at what cost? You know, I want to say that I was broken spiritually, emotionally, and physically through the situation with my daughter. I lost severe weight. I had anxiety attacks, couldn't sleep, and all this time I had lost my job as well. I was in a state of embarrassment because my physical appearance was horrible. I had lost so much weight. I mean, the weight loss was just unbelievable. But people walk up to you that knew you and say, "Oh, you okay? You lost so much weight?" You say, "Yeah, I'm fine." No, I wasn't fine. But that was the end of it. No one inquired after that. No one asked or reached out. And I felt myself dying in 7 days. When you read the book, you'll hear about that. I literally felt life leaving me. And on the 7th day, because I stayed in bed for 7 days, I said, "Lord, if you don't get me out of this bed, I'm going to die today." And I felt a nudge. And once I got out of that bed and I showered, I vowed to never allow anyone or anything to take me to such despair. So speaking to parents, I encourage you to speak up. Stop holding things in. Release it. You are not alone. You're not the only one. It's not just your child. It's several our child. It's not our fault. They're adults. They've chosen certain avenues and directions. I would release anything that I was on my mind to strangers, perfect strangers. People would ask me, "How are you doing?" I said, "I'm not having a good day." And they asked me why. And I was able to release. But that would help me because those people I would never see again, they weren't going to judge me. They couldn't share with anybody. And if they did, hey, they didn't know me. I wasn't looking for answers. I just need a listening ear, that relief from the pain and the hurt that I was experiencing. And so many parents have called me and shared who have read this book. And I'm just glad that they don't feel alone, that they can open up, that they feel that they can open up to me and not have their business discussed or gossiped about. I wish that I had this book, Wounds of Wisdom, in 2016. But I'm glad it's here so that others are not alone. So I want to read something from page 107. When your grown children won't listen, simply stop talking. Life will teach them. I also, before I continue, I want to read 2 words of wisdom. Our children belong to God and are on loan to us. They will make their own choices and decisions, and there's nothing we can do about that. Live life to the fullest because our children think they are doing just that. Then word of wisdom number 34. Our children will open doors that they may one day wish they had never opened. Don't allow their situations to cause you to open a door that you wish you had kept closed. For example, insanity. Prayerfully, they will make it through with a great maturity and testimony that will bless others. So point number 2, to the parents. You are 100% responsible for how you allow your children to treat you. Tough love is tough, but you're tougher. Stand firm. Guard your heart. Make decisions that bring you peace. I also read a quote on Facebook recently. It said, blood is not thicker than peace. I don't care who you are. If you are toxic, you're toxic. Toxic environments are poisonous. I guard my peace at all costs. And if you look on page 201, I even make a statement in there. It says, my peace. People don't realize that you can forgive them without speaking to them again. It's not a grudge. It's peace of mind. And February 2nd of 2019 is when I obtained absolute peace. There was a situation that occurred that you can read in the book, and that brought me so much peace because I knew that there was nothing else I can do. There's a song by Donnie McClurkin. After you've done all you can, you just stand. And on that particular date, I knew what that meant. I experienced that. So the final point I want to make is a quote by Byron Pulsifer. He says, if you worry about something that you have no control over or can do absolutely nothing about, then you're wasting your time, your energy, and your emotion. You can be concerned, do what you can, pray and release it. But don't waste your time, energy, or your emotions. So this concludes Trials, Triumphs, and Truths with Dr. Monica. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to end with the theme song, I'm Moving Up, which I encourage you to do, to move up. And if you found this podcast enlightening or encouraging, please share it and comments. Also, I'm going to ask you to do something this week. Post a question in the chat for me. I'm going to read through those and I will answer questions maybe next week. And if you don't have a copy of the book or want to pick up a copy for someone, go to drmonicajackson.com/books and get a copy. So I always like to end with, until next time, don't allow anyone to disturb your peace, and don't you disturb anyone's peace for the rest of the day. So move up, stay true, and dedicated to who you are. Have an awesome day and be encouraged, parents and children. Learn to listen and move up. Don't let anyone bring you down. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you. I appreciate the encouragement, the feedback, and the words of that you have, and how the book is blessing you and encouraging you and helping you through. So again, enjoy the song. Have a good evening.